Is the Autel EVO 2 Pro V3 the kind of drone that actually earns its price tag for the everyday creator, or is it a gadget that will end up gathering dust? Who will get the most bang for their buck, and who's better off saving their money for something simpler? That's the decision most of us wrestle with before we even fire up the remote. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. When you first see a drone advertised with a 1-inch sensor, 6K HDR video, and 40-minute flight time, it's easy to imagine yourself filming cinematic travel reels or capturing property footage for a client. But the reality of daily use often looks a lot different from the glossy marketing video. I spent the past few weeks taking the EVO 2 Pro V3 out of the box, swapping batteries, testing the Obstacle Avoidance suite in a park, and trying to get decent footage in both bright daylight and a cloudy cityscape. What I learned is that the drone's strengths really shine in specific scenarios, while a few hidden trade-offs can bite you if you're not aware of them. First, let's talk about who should seriously consider this machine. If you're a hobbyist who already shoots video with a mirrorless camera and you want an aerial perspective that matches the dynamic range of a 1-inch sensor, the EVO 2 Pro gives you that. The 12-bit A-log profile means you have serious latitude for color grading, something that most consumer drones simply can't deliver. I tried filming a sunrise over the coastline, and the HDR footage retained detail in both the glowing horizon and the darkening sea. After a quick export to DaVinci Resolve, the extra bit depth saved me from pulling the highlights into the shadows, a workflow that would have required a lot more time with a 1080p drone. The second group that benefits is the small business market, especially real estate agents and property managers who need high-resolution aerial stills and video to showcase large parcels. The 6K resolution provides enough pixel count that you can pull still frames that look razor-sharp even after cropping. In a test on a suburban home, I flew the drone about 30 meters up, captured a 6K still, and then zoomed into the roof tiles. The texture stayed crisp enough to see individual shingles, which is a selling point when you're trying to prove the condition of a roof without sending a roofer out. Now, who should probably skip this one? If your primary goal is casual, just for fun flying like you do with a cheap toy quadcopter, this is overkill. The price point, the need to manage large 6K files, and the learning curve around the dynamic track modes make it a heavier commitment. Also, if you fly in heavily regulated airspace, you'll notice a missing feature. The EVO 2 Pro doesn't have built-in geofencing that automatically keeps you out of restricted zones. I accidentally entered a temporary no-fly area around a local airport, and the drone kept going, forcing me to manually intervene. For pilots who rely on a safety net that prevents accidental incursions, that omission can be a deal-breaker. Let's dig into the practical strengths that matter after you've unpacked the box. The most obvious win is the 40-minute flight time. In my hands, the battery lived up to the claim, giving me roughly 35 minutes of usable time once I accounted for takeoff, landing, and a few brief hover pauses. That endurance means you can cover a large property or a whole day of landscape scouting without swapping batteries every 10 minutes, which is a huge time saver for professionals. The 360-degree obstacle avoidance also felt genuinely useful. While many drones claim omnidirectional sensors, the EVO 2 Pro's 6-direction array actually prevented a near collision with a tree branch when I was trying to get a low-angle shot of a river bend. The system isn't perfect fast, sideways sprints can still confuse it, but in the typical fly-by-the-house scenario it adds a layer of confidence that you won't get with a basic GP-Sunly unit. Another real-world benefit is the flexibility of the camera's post-production workflow. The 12-bit A-log is a bit of a double-edged sword. You get amazing latitude, but you also need a decent editing rig to handle the large files. If you already have a laptop that struggles with 4K, the jump to 6K can feel sluggish. That said, the drone records internally to a UHSII microSD card, and the footage moves off the card quickly enough that you won't spend an hour waiting for a single clip to copy. Now for the weaknesses that only become clear after a few flights. The biggest gripe is the lack of built-in geofencing, as mentioned earlier. In crowded urban environments, you have to manually check maps before each flight, and there's no automatic no-fly zone warning on the controller screen. That puts the onus on you to stay compliant, which can be stressful for beginners. A secondary drawback is the size of the unit. The EVO 2 Pro is larger than the typical pocket-sized hobby drones, meaning you need a dedicated backpack or case to transport it safely. The folding arms are convenient, but you still have to be mindful of the 1-inch sensor's protective glass, which can get